Welcome to the Why Mormons Should Not Drink Caffeinated Beverages video. The following slides will feature quotations from Mormon leaders regarding cola and caffeine. Caffeine-free colas were not available until 1983, so any quotations before that time regarding cola would indicate that those drinks did have caffeine. Okay, Apostle Spencer W. Kimball said, "I never drink any of the cola drinks, and my personal hope would be that nobody would." I quote from a letter from the secretary to the First Presidency, quote, "But the spirit of the word of wisdom would be violated by the drinking or eating of anything that contained a habit-forming drug like caffeine." And that's going to be a reoccurring theme in this video, habit-forming drugs and caffeine, which in these days of the church was banned under the word of wisdom. And this from the Teachings of Spencer W. Kimball, book 1962. The prophet Gordon B. Hinckley said, "It is demanding, and that's one of the things that attracts people to this church. It stands as an anchor in a world of shifting values." And then Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes said, "Example, Mormons adhere to a very strict health code. No alcohol, no tobacco, no coffee, no tea, not even caffeinated soft drinks." And then Hinckley responded and says, "Yes, that's right." This is a 60 Minutes program on CBS TV, April 7th, 1996. Okay, Bruce R. McConkie in the book Mormon Doctrine, which came out in 1958, said, "Certainly the partaking of cola drinks is in violation of the spirit of the word of wisdom." The Apostle John A. Widstow said, "Hot drinks against which the people are warned have been and are understood to include tea and coffee, and the inhibition was preached and published prior to the discovery by chemists that theine, caffeine, and kindred alkaloids are of pronounced deleterious and actually poisonous effect." So he's saying caffeine is actually a poison. Here again has Mormonism as a living teacher led the way to the paths of a better life, not for the hereafter alone, but for this world as well. This in the Improvement Era in 1917. So we now have another statement about caffeine. Now it seems that these early Mormon leaders had a big problem with caffeine, and not necessarily cola or coffee in general, but that it was the caffeine in the cola and coffee that made it bad. So let's see. This is Apostle Rudger Clausen in General Conference 1935. He said, "Scientific men have told us that in tobacco there is a deadly poison, and in tea there is a poison called tannin, and in coffee a poison called caffeine." So see, he's identifying caffeine as the poison in coffee. "And we know that such must be the case because these forbidden things are really and substantially narcotics, and a narcotic is something that is habit-forming." All right, here's another one about caffeine. It's from LeGrand Richards in the popular book Marvelous Work and a Wonder in 1950. "All researchers agree that the use of caffeine-containing beverages is harmful to the body and reduces normal health." Okay, this is from the Priesthood Bulletin in 1972. "With reference to cola drinks, the leaders of the church have advised against the use of any drink containing harmful habit-forming drugs." So the caffeine was bad, and the habit-forming nature of caffeine is bad. Any beverage that contains ingredients that are harmful to the body should be avoided. The prophet Heber J. Grant said, "The head of the health department, Dr. Beatty, has requested me to say to the Latter-day Saints that there are more injurious ingredients in Coca-Cola than there are in coffee." So cola is worse than coffee. "And particularly when some of the good people say, 'Give me the double shot,' I say to the Latter-day Saints, and it is my right to say it, because you have sung, since this conference started, the following song, which was, 'We thank thee, O God, for a prophet to guide us in these latter days.'" So he's basically saying, you have sustained me as a prophet, and you're singing the song that I'm a prophet, so basically listen to what I have to say. "I am not going to give any command, but I will ask it as a personal, individual favor to me to let Coca-Cola alone. There are plenty of other things you can get at the soda fountain without drinking that which is injurious. Injurious. Not sure how to say that. The Lord does not want you to use any drug that creates an appetite for itself. General Conference 1922. And then there are some soft drinks which contain harmful or habit-forming ingredients, such as caffeine. The leaders of the church teach that in the spirit of the word of wisdom, if not in the letter, we should avoid anything which contains ingredients which are harmful or habit-forming. Apostle Marquis Peterson. All right, we have a prophet again here, Gordon B. Hinckley, on Larry King Live on TV, saying that you should not drink caffeine. So here's a little bit of that conversation. The prophet Gordon B. Hinckley said, "You've read a part of the word of wisdom. The word of wisdom covers many things. It covers the excessive use of meat, as I see it." That's kind of a weird one to mention because the Mormons don't follow that one. He says it covers in a very particular way the use of tobacco and alcohol. Then Larry King says, by saying no, ? And Hinckley says, by proscribing those things. Then Larry King says, no to caffeine ? And Hinckley says, yes, no to caffeine, coffee, and tea. So he specifically says no to caffeine by the prophet in 1998. Okay, the Apostle John A. Widstow said that cola drinks are dangerous and that very few of our people drink decaffeinated coffee, but many of them are addicted to the cola drinks, in a letter September 17th, 1945. Apostle George F. Richards said, the leaders of this church have interpreted that word of wisdom to include tea and coffee and all drinks that are habit-forming because of the caffeine. Well, there we go again. Habit-forming because of the caffeine and the drugs that they contain. This in General Conference, October 1938. All right, 2004, relatively recent, Manual for Seminary Teachers, those who teach the youth. You have been counseled repeatedly to live in the world, but not be one of those of the world. Sometimes some of our members want to live as close as they can to the worldly standards, and yet qualify for a temple recommend. Live by the covenants that you took in the temple. Do not live on the fringes. You will be judged by the kinds of movies that you attend, by the way you dress, and by the music which you listen to. Some years ago, one of our teachers told his students that he used cola drinks, and that it did not prevent him from holding a temple recommend. This was an indication of poor judgment on his part, and it illustrates what I mean by living on the fringes. Live the spirit of the commandments. So he's basically saying, live the spirit of the commandments by not drinking cola drinks. All right. Okay, the Apostle John A. Widstow again. He and his wife wrote a book called The Word of Wisdom, A Modern Interpretation in 1937. And Widstow is quite the author. He has a lot of different books. But Apostle John A. Widstow said, whenever a drink is advertised to give you a lift, the lift is likely to be caused by the drug which it contains, caffeine. Such soft drinks are decidedly harmful and habit-forming, even though sold by the millions. Such caffeine-containing drinks, offered by every soda fountain and most eating places, are consumed in large quantities, should be known and avoided. So such caffeine-containing drinks should be known and avoided. Okay, we have a letter here from Joseph L. Anderson, Secretary to the First Presidency. This is when David O. McKay was prophet. This was on January 8th, 1965. Dear Brother C, and the rest is start out. Your letter of January 1st addressed to Miss Claire Middlemiss, Secretary to President David O. McKay, has been referred to this office for answer. You indicate that you are the home teacher of a sister residing in your ward who has a word of wisdom problem in that she drinks coffee. You state that you are trying to help this sister overcome this problem by the use of Senka or Postum. As your letter is understood, you are desirous of knowing the attitude of the church regarding the drinking of Senka coffee, which is basically just decaf coffee. I am directed to tell you that the drinking of a beverage made from the coffee bean, which is coffee, from which all caffeine and deleterious drugs have been removed, is not regarded as a violation of the word of wisdom. So if you have coffee that the caffeine's been taken out of, decaf coffee, it is not a violation of the word of wisdom. So they're just showing again that their main concern was caffeine, not cola or coffee. Okay, Apostle Richard L. Evans said, in greater or less degree, all nerve-affecting drugs produce it. Nicotine, caffeine, opium, cocaine, and all the rest. So he's lumping in caffeine with some pretty serious drugs there. And all the rest, strong or weak. Habitual use of any of these is a physical vice. A physical vice becomes a moral vice, and to cultivate vice is to render our mind incapable of normal action. That's kind of a weird statement because caffeine stimulates the mind and actually makes you sharper. That's why so many people use it to study in school. Anyway, this is Apostle Richard L. Evans, General Conference, October 1969. Again, we have Apostle John A. Widstow, and he said, cola drinks invariably exert a stimulating effect upon the body and leave a desire for more. This has made observers of the word of wisdom question the propriety of using cola drinks. Propriety. Every argument used against coffee and tea and some other arguments may be used against cola drinks and all other beverages containing caffeine. So he's basically lumping cola in with coffee and tea and saying you can use the same arguments against coffee and tea to be used against cola. They are determined habit formers and may lead to the coffee and tea habit, that is by drinking the cola. They injure human health. Caffeine and cola drinks, Improvement Era, 1939. All right, from around 1983 to September 2017, Brigham Young University only sold caffeine-free colas, like caffeine-free Coke, which came out about 1983, and BYU did sell it, but they would not sell sodas with caffeine in them, I think, ever since the 1960s. Okay, this was an indication that the problem was with caffeine and not the colas in general, because lots of BYU students and staff would drink the caffeine-free colas. But today, BYU has chosen to disregard prior prophets and apostles' advice to abstain from caffeinated colas. And we saw plenty of quotations where they said you should not be drinking these caffeinated colas, which can cause a habit. Here is a picture of Sanka, the naturally decaffeinated coffee, which I guess is still fine to drink in the church. And that will conclude our video, and I thank you for watching Why Mormons Should Not Drink Caffeinated Beverages video.